From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Fox 8 studios in New Orleans, it's the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm Vasilios, that is Sean Fazende. Remember to like, subscribe, rate, and review. You guys can find us wherever you listen to and watch your podcast. And if you happen to be watching on YouTube, hit the little bell button right there. You get notified every time we upload a new podcast. Sean, happy Friday to you. Saints are still 5-6. We're
still 5-6. It's been an interesting week out at Saints camp, but like Sil said, like, share, rate, review. We're going to keep on talking about the topics we know y'all like to talk about. We may not say what you want us to say, but we're going to say what we believe is right and accurate, like we said last time. But, yeah, so like, share, rate, review, leave some comments below, subscribe to our YouTube channel, trying to get some of those numbers up, and away we go with this Friday podcast.
All right, so this week, Sean, I know we talked about it a little bit last podcast. The energy out on Wednesday during practice was good. It was serious. How about the rest of the week? What's the perception on how this week went for the Saints?
Well, like, perception of the week, this was an interesting week from a outside reaction, not just from fans, but, you know, national media, former players. It was an interesting dynamic based off who talked, what they said. You know, it kind of became Derek Carr hate week this week. Let's be honest. He took some shots from all over the map in terms of a game last week that he played, obviously, against Atlanta. The general manager, Mickey Loomis, did his weekly spot with WWL Radio. Clearly, some people had some reaction to that, and DA talks like he talks every week. So, look, when you have a rough game and you're at 5-6 and people are mad, I mean, it's going to go towards the heavy hitters, if you will, just in terms of, I guess you call them the foundation pieces, the faces of your franchise, if you will. I'll just start with Derek Carr because the press conference he gave seemed to get a little bit of a buzz. I was there. I participated in the press conference. In fact, I was the one that asked him. I said, hey, what's the mood? What's the mindset this week? There's a lot of, coming off a rough game like this. And that was probably midway through, maybe a little past midway through the press conference. And he had been hit pretty hard with some questions. He's like, not as sad as it is out here, basically meaning like the media and the negativity surrounding, and everybody got a little bit of a chuckle out of it. The answer was fine. I mean, when I asked the question, it's what I was curious, genuinely curious how the mood was and how he would certainly react. And I think by that point of the press conference, he had gotten to the point where he had picked up on the vibe and the energy of what those of us that were participating. And I know he's the first quarterback that I've dealt with that will tell you, I'm not going to tell you. And I think in his head, it's more of a, I'm keeping it in-house thing. And I don't know what the perception of that is around with other media members or maybe outside. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure that he cares. But there was that I guess you call it viral clip that went when he was asked about the red zone. It was about the fourth or fifth time he was asked about the red zone, and he went out of his way to say, it's going to be a lot of words, but I'm not going to give you an answer. Like, I kind of laughed at it because like it's a weird thing to say, but it's actually an honest thing to say, because at least he's telling you, I'm not going to tell you. Like, I'm not going to tell you that I'm not going to give you just a lot of word salad. I'm going to say it's going to be, I'm not going to tell you what we need to do well. That's his way of doing it. I don't know. I mean, that's how he handles it. I was not around in Las Vegas. That's the way he handles it. Here's the big picture with that, though. The Saints are officially in, you can't say anything right now. You're not going to be able to say anything right now unless somebody just goes ballistic and crazy, and of those people that I had just mentioned. And Mickey Loomis steps on the microphone and starts saying, I believe I got the right guys in the building. And then he goes into, historically, we've done this. We've done some really good things offensively. I mean, what did you think of that? Because that's Mickey. That's Mickey. That's the Mickey I know. That's the Mickey. He's not.
He's never going to say anything inflammatory.
He's the guy that'll talk and say nothing and try to fool you with it. Whereas Derek Carr basically said, I'm going to tell you nothing, but I'm going to say some words, when he said it earlier, I guess later in the week when we talked about the press conference answer. So to me, it was one of those situations where, look, there's nothing you can say right. He's trying to stay positive, present a positive front to his team, and that sort of thing. And then Dennis Allen spoke, and I guess people were mad that he didn't throw his quarterback under the bus when he said, I'm not going to play the blame game. I don't know, man. I don't know how people would react to that is their business. But the bottom line is this. The Saints can't do it. They're not going to win anything in the media aspect of it right now. They've got to go out and win on the football field. And look, there were a lot of things that happened. Again, I've went back. I've watched it now 3 times and even went back a 4th time because there was something I was specifically going to work on for Tailgate on Sunday, which you'll see Sunday morning, where I laid out everything that happened in the red zone. My God, when you put it all together, just how much of just a disaster of epic proportions that was. And frankly, it was bigger than one player, and you will see it all laid out on Sunday. So it was an interesting week, vibes, and who got the brunt of the criticism, and it certainly went strong at the, who normally gets it, the coordinator and the play caller, or I guess in this case the same person, the head coach, quarterback, and the GM, who I guess does that weekly segment now on Tuesdays, maybe Wednesday. I'm not sure exactly what day it is. But, if you're going to step to the mic, he's got to say something, but he's also got to, he felt like he needed to felt the need to do positive, to be positive. And look, I know nobody wants to hear this, but they are 5-6. They're not like 1-10. So they still have an opportunity. But it was an interesting week. Just outside noise. Seemed to be a lot of venom at certain people. Like I said, this week it felt like the most was aimed at number 4, Derek Carr. And there's nothing they can do about it. They just got to practice and go play on Sunday and answer questions the best way that they can. So it was an interesting dynamic out there on Saints camp this week, to say the least, at least for our purposes, because, people want answers. They don't necessarily have the answers, or the answers they're going to give is not going to satisfy anyone, because it's always going to be, well, we got to do better, or we got to work on this, we got to work on that. But Derek Carr is unique in that he's the only person that will say, yes, we have the answers, but I'm not going to tell you. I've never dealt with a quarterback that has done that before. And I think part of it is I'm protecting my team. I'm not going to reveal inside information. It's probably a little overblown, because I mean, whatever. But it's just, I have just never dealt with that style when it comes, and every quarterback has his own style. I haven't had any issues in terms of dealing with him in terms of media-wise back and forth this week. So it certainly blew up, but I mean, there's really nothing he can say, because if he went out and said, we got to do better and this is unacceptable, and would that make anybody feel any better right now?
No.
Come on. Everybody's like, oh, all he had to say was, I'm like, no, he didn't. There's nothing else he could have said.
Y'all would still be complaining.
There's nothing he could have said. And that's what 5-6, in a frustrating 5-6, because you've shown flashes that you can win, but every time you try to get on a roll, you can't do it. So that was really my overall perception of a very interesting week out at Saints camp.
All right, so you just mentioned it. Blame game. Everybody's blaming somebody. Mm-hmm. This week it was Derek Carr. But so everybody's taking a little bit of blame this season. Who's been made a Teflon, though? Who's been getting a pass this season that maybe shouldn't have been getting a pass?
Ooh, I like that word, Teflon. All right, so let's just count it up. Let's just in our mind's eye, just picture week to week who has gotten the brunt of the criticism. This week it was Derek Carr front and center. Pete Carmichael has been he has just been a punching bag all season long. Dennis Allen has certainly been a punching bag all season long. Mickey Loomis, it's really starting to pick up with Mickey Loomis as well. But there have been some players, some big-name players, that I believe have gotten a pass this season, that I believe are not having the season that people perceive them to have. And the top of my list is number 41, Alvin Kamara.
Wow.
He's averaging 3.8 yards per carry. Has not had a run for over 20 yards all season. Had 3 opportunities last week in Atlanta. One-on-one with a safety at the 3rd level. 0 for 3. Didn't make a miss. And I know he's the guy that's kind of been the keep it real. We don't have an identity. Tell it like it is kind of guy. I can respect that as a media member, especially because you certainly want to hear things like that. And maybe that's why the fans like what he's saying. But you got to look closely at what Alvin Kamara is doing. First off, I'm just going to say it. He's got terrible body language. He has got terrible body language on the field. Terrible. And then he's got he missed the first 3 games of the season, obviously. Certainly it could have helped. I mean, it was a suspension, obviously. We missed the first 3 games of the season, and they won 2 of those 3, but he could have certainly helped in that Green Bay game, I'm sure. And then, look, man, I mean, I just don't think he's had quite the year he could have, and I think the big picture of offensive inefficiency / inconsistency has masked that a little bit. I think despite some of that, he could still be better. And I think, was it the Indianapolis game? We were like, this needs to be an Alvin Kamara game. This needs to be an Alvin Kamara game. I think Alvin Kamara has kind of flown under the radar as a guy that's probably not having quite the year people perceive him to have. A couple other guys. Have we seen anything from Jamal Williams yet?
No.
Nothing.
Legitimately nothing.
He has been a huge disappointment, in my opinion.
After leading the league in touchdown runs last year.
I mean, we haven't seen anything from – I know he missed a couple of games. We haven't seen anything from Jamal Williams. Kendra
Miller hasn't really shown up.
hasn't been around. I hate doing this, but Cam Jordan hasn't had a good year.
I mean, DeMario is starting to look slow.
I shouldn't even qualify that. Like, he hasn't had a good year. It is what it is. He's at the latter stages of his career. He has not had a good career. I mean, he has not had a good season this year. That's just fact.
I think you can bring that up, though, because they signed him to an extension through the next couple of years.
What I mean by that is I shouldn't have said I hate saying this because, it's just fact. That's just fact. I mean, it's nothing personal. It's just everything is business right now. And DeMario Davis has looked a step slow. Marcus May, sometimes you see him, sometimes you don't. Ryan Ramczyk is a guy. Last week, 2 holding calls.
Yep.
I think he's had an overall decent season, but 2 holding calls in the red zone, or maybe one was in the red zone, one was just outside the red zone. That negated big plays, and then his shoe fell off or something, and he goes out the game. It's on 3rd down in the red zone, and his replacement comes in, and Derek Carr immediately gets sacked. That was one of those sacks. There was nothing Derek Carr could do about that. The guy got beat right off the line. So, I mean, the criticism has been rightfully pointed at head coach, coordinator, quarterback, GM, because those are the 4 that are going to get it.
Yeah.
But let's not lose sight of the fact that there are some guys, high-end guys on your roster that have not played well this season, have been inconsistent, and I just felt like, look, we're at 5-6. This team is 5-6. Everything's on the table now. Yeah. No one deserves to be completely absolved of any blame in this situation. Even Taysom Hill, who I think has been the best player on offense, had the fumble inside the 10-yard line. Now, it was a great play.
Had to be a perfect punch.
And look, that play right there, even if they don't score a touchdown, they take the lead right there. It was 14-12.
Yeah.
Devastating, man. Devastating.
And you mentioned Ryan Ramczyk, and I'm like, I can kind of point the finger at the 2 other mainstays on the line, too, and Cesar Ruiz and Eric McCoy.
I got their names written down here as well. Ruiz had the big false start right after a big play to get into the red zone. Eric McCoy has had his moments where he looked overwhelmed. So, look, they're all on the table. They're all on the table. And, look, point your criticism as much or as little as you want at whoever you feel is necessary, but to me, you got to look at the whole picture here, and I think there's been some guys that have flown under the radar in terms of getting the proper criticism that they probably deserve this season. I
agree with you, and of course we got a game this Sunday. The Lions are coming to town. What are you most concerned with on Sunday, where it's a game the Saints could either get back to 500 or fall to 2 games under?
The stands. That's my biggest. I'm like legit nervous. Like it's gonna get ugly really quick.
Yeah,
inside the stadium.
As soon as there's a flag or something, or a bad play,
a field goal, a punt, like I could just feel it. It's like soon it could happen really, really early, which could totally it totally reverses any feeling of any kind of home field advantage. That is what worries me the most about this game.
And that kind of happened last month in the Bears game, didn't it?
No, it was Jacksonville where it happened. It was the Jacksonville game, and then they kind of rallied, and then they were able to make a run. So, I think
be patient.
No, I'm not telling the fans what to do, but because I'm not foolish enough to do that, because I know based off the comments y'all been giving us, y'all are ready to blow.
Forget I said that.
The tension is there. So I just hope for the sake of everybody, they can get off to a fast start, because I just feel like it can get real uncomfortable in there. And we haven't even got to the actual matchup yet, which I think the Saints offense can actually bounce back this week a little bit, because they did move the ball between the 20s pretty well against Atlanta. And red zone was such a disaster last week. It was a disaster even on Saints terms. Like, the Saints have struggled in the red zone, but Atlanta was such a disaster in the red zone that it was even more of an extreme outlier of what they've even been doing this season inside the 20, just because of this, just a comedy of errors that happened. Like I said, I'll lay it out for you on Sunday at 10 a.m. In tailgate. And then Detroit's defense is giving up some big plays. I think the Saints can take advantage of that. I just think by the
800 yards over the last 3 games.
And I just think the law of averages, it's got to work in their favor, right? You can't go like 0 for again inside the red zone, right? You can't. I guess you can.
I mean, you can.
I don't want to go there. I don't want
to say never, because
right.
what's the saying? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong.
And that was the case Sunday in Atlanta. So yeah, that's gonna be something to watch. And the Saints are really banged up on defense, which concerns me against a very prolific offense. This might be the best offense they face coming into the Dome this Sunday.
And of course, you say they're banged up, and I got the injury report pulled up right here.
Read it up.
So Cam Jordan, DNP, he's questionable. Marcus May did not practice. He is out. Kendre Miller, out. Rashid Shaheed, out. Pete Werner, out. And then 3 straight questionables here with Blake Grupe, Eric McCoy, and Chris Olave. And then both Ryan Ramczyk and Andrus Peat were full practice with no game status.
There's some names. Chris Olave getting full participation, I think, is big. I think that's more on the track of him playing. And regardless of what has happened between Carr and Olave in the past, that connection was heating up in that game.
Yep.
So that's certainly big, especially without Shaheed and without Michael Thomas in the game. So that's big. Without him, I mean, I'm thinking A.T. Perry, Lynn Bowden, Keith Kirkwood, and maybe they bring up Marquez Callaway. We'll see if Jimmy Graham is able to get healthy or be a healthy active, not a healthy inactive this week. And then defensively, Pete Werner being out is interesting because maybe he was one I probably overlooked as well, not having the year he should have as well.
Yeah.
I think he's gotten a pass as well because I think he's regressed a little bit this year. So he's out. So we'll see who takes his place. And then safety wise, Jonathan Abram was signed to the active roster. Marcus May being out.
So you might see him play a little bit of linebacker where Pete Werner was.
No, Abram would be more of a safety. Linebacker-wise.
He plays close to the line, though.
Yeah. What's that?
I said he plays close to the line,
yeah,
though.
he can. So
but
we'll see. It'll be an interesting Sunday. I am so curious about just the old energy in the Dome this week because it can be the loudest, most deafening home field advantage in the NFL, or it can get ugly. That is how it goes with Saints when they are frustrated. Saints fans, I should say. So, let's see how it goes on Sunday.
Any final thoughts as we head into this?
I'm good. Final thoughts. I'm ready for Sunday.
All right, guys. Well, like I said on the last pod, the Lions 4-11 all time in the Superdome. Make of that what you will. For Sean Fazende, I'm Vasilios. We'll catch you guys on Monday with a recap of the Lions versus the Saints.